Hey there everyone, welcome to the Uke Stuff channel. Today's a little different. I've actually bought one of those rear-facing camera sort of screens. So for the first time, I'm actually using the rear camera on my iPhone instead of the front-facing camera as I record this video. So if things look a little different, I'm giving it a try. I'm not sure if this is going to continue or not, but it was inexpensive enough that I wanted to give it a try. Now, what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about what happens when you buy a new ukulele. What should you do? And that's what we're going to do in this video. This happens to be the Toto Music Fuji ukulele. It was sent to me for review purposes. And actually, I have not reviewed this instrument yet. This is still new to me. It arrived yesterday. I gave it a cursory look over, tuned it up, played it a little bit, but this is basically still brand new right out of the box from Toto Music. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what? Let's talk about what you should do if you buy an ukulele in those first minutes and what you should do. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is that it is summer as I am recording this video. The same would hold true in winter, but when this was delivered, it was like 95 degrees outside. It was in the sun, so the box was definitely more than 100 degrees at that point. It's very humid here where I live in Wisconsin near the Twin Cities, and as a result, you don't want to necessarily open up an ukulele box and start playing it 20 seconds after it arrives. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to bring that box in and let it either warm up or cool down to more of a room temperature, and then take it out of the box. Now, I would not personally care too much about the condition of the box. In fact, this one came in an Amazon box where it was delivered to me. I would not worry about the external condition of the box, even on the internal box. The Toto Music actually comes with kind of a nice looking box, but it's just a box that holds the ukulele and the accessories. Let me show you how you're getting with it. This will be covered in the full review, which will actually be released before this video, but you get a very decent gig bag. It does have the hanger that I like on them. It does have the bumper on the bottom, which is good. It does have lightly padded shoulder straps and a padded handle. And probably, it's got a nice fabric interior. It's got a little Velcro strip there to hold the instrument into it. And it has not a giant pocket, but a decent sized pocket. My friend Steve on Steve Strings noted that this is embroidered, which it doesn't need to be, but that's a nice touch. And then you also get a packet full of goodies. Now, again, I'll cover this in the review, but you get a capo, you get a strap. This one is the Fuji theme strap. You get a cleaning cloth. You get some extra strings that do not match the strings that come with it. That's kind of important to note. And I think that's it. I do not think that there are any picks. Oh, there are some picks that come with the ukulele. They're there. They're in the back of the cleaning cloth. But that's it. That's what you get with your instrument, plus the instrument itself. So ultimately, what are things you should look for? Well, with the case, I would check zippers quickly to make sure they work all the way through. So that's good. That's good. Just make sure that everything's attached securely, because once you accept it and keep it, you can't really return it. But that case is in good shape. I really wouldn't worry about any of the other accessories. So I would not worry about like taking out the strings and inspecting them. I personally don't even use plastic picks. You can see videos about that on this channel. The cleaning cloth, I have cleaning cloths. I just like a standard microfiber cloth anyway that you can buy anyway. The strap, sure, you could inspect the strap to see if you need to do it, but I don't need to take that out. So you can look over the accessories, but the key thing you want to get to is the instrument itself. Now, the first thing to do is to do a visual check and to see if there are any visible flaws or blemishes that would make you send it back. So looking, for damage on the ukulele, especially if the box is damaged. Just because the box is damaged doesn't mean that the ukulele is, but looking across the ukulele, making sure that there are no, strange markings, no damage of any kind. And that just takes a couple seconds to look over. And I don't see anything on this one. The second thing to do, I think, is to just check the feelings of the tuners and to see if there's any tuner that in particular is grinding or doesn't feel good. That's pretty good there. Now, if there is some grinding on your tuners, you can place a drop of lemon oil, for example, sometimes in the gears. That's not so easy to do. I'm still adapting to the new tiny screen. That's not so easy to do with closed tuners like that. So that may not be as easy to work through. Additionally, I think it's worth making sure that the nuts on these kind of tuners, you can see the nuts that hold in the tuners on this side, are tightened. That's a 10 millimeter wrench. I have a tiny little wrench that I can use to make sure that those are tightened down, because sometimes those loosen up in shipping. After that, after making sure that that's all good, because that can cause buzzing up there, it's just a matter of, first of all, seeing if there are any buzzes. So let's bring it up to pitch. And I'm using my Jawum Smart Tuner, as I often do. No, you don't need to use an automatic tuner, but when you have as many ukuleles as I do, or if you're an ukulele teacher, as I am, and you teach classes full of ukulele, this thing is a lifesaver. Can I tune an ukulele by myself? Sure. Can I use an external tuner or even match pitch? Sure. This just makes it so much easier, right? But what I would do is then I would play each string and listen to see if there's a buzz. There's nothing buzzing on this one so far. And then go up each string. Octave is probably all you really need to go. Next one. And the final string. Now, we've checked for buzzes. There are no buzzes going up. And then we get into the issue of sound. If you're buying an ukulele, how do you know whether this is the instrument for you or not? Especially if you've bought, for example, from a place like Amazon, where you can do returns pretty easily. There are some ukuleles that are high-end ukuleles you'll buy from an ukulele specialist, and they may have a return policy, but there may be a restocking fee, and you may have to pay the postage if you don't like it. But what I would do is, first of all, is I would not change strings right away on any instrument. There's usually a reason why those strings were chosen, and particularly on this one, they're sort of a clear string. They look more like a nylon clear than a fluorocarbon clear. I have not looked at the specs yet on this instrument, and they come with a second pack of sort of like Aquila Nile gut strings, although they are not clear. They're white like Aquila Nile guts. Anyway, I would live with these strings for a while, and I'd see if I liked the sound of it. And I would play different things. I'd play like standard chords. So on a G8 instrument like this, I'd start off by playing your standard C, F, G, G7, D minor, and if you're daring, your F chord, maybe something like a B7. And then I'd play some songs of something that you'd want to hear. So then maybe I would try picking some things to just see what you think. Now, a lot of ukuleles will start going out of tune immediately. That's okay. The strings are stretching, they're plastic or nylon based. That's to be expected. Now, what is surprising is these did go out of tune overnight. Since this was delivered yesterday, I tuned it up. but it is doing a remarkably good job of holding its tune already. You look at the Amazon reviews, and there's a person I follow on TikTok and I think on Facebook as well, and she goes by the name You Curious, and she was talking about how, let your strings stretch. There's nothing wrong with your ukulele. Let the strings stretch. And that's the number one thing I see on the Amazon reviews of people that send back their instruments because it just wouldn't stay in tune. Most ukuleles stay in tune over time with geared tuners. Are there some exceptions? Sure. Are there some broken tuners here and there? Sure, that's going to happen. But in general, you've got to tune and then tune and then tune and then tune. It's usually a couple of hours of playing of a set of strings before an instrument really starts holding tune for me. I find that fluorocarbons tend to settle a bit quicker than like the Nile gut strings, but these are actually holding pretty amazingly well for a short period of time. Now, once you have this all figured out, then it's the question of action. And that's not something to return an ukulele over, but something that you want to adjust. So let's talk about that as well. Since I had to go off camera anyway, I pulled out a couple of tools. I might as well just show you them. First of all is just a simple 10mm end wrench that you can use. Be careful with this if there's not a washer underneath that, but I like to make sure that those nuts are all snug. And it usually doesn't take much. That one was a little loose. How about this one? Yeah, in general, they're all snug. They don't have to be over tight, but I just like those to be snug so that the washer underneath that nut isn't rattling and causing a buzz. And that didn't even throw much out. Now, you may see on a wooden fretboard or a wooden bridge that it's dry. And if you want to, this is a great time to loosen the strings and then use something like Music Nomad's F1 oil or a fretboard lemon oil like Dunlop 65, and put that on, let it soak in, and then dry off the strings and then tighten them up again. So you can do that. I don't know if I would do that until I've made the decision to send the ukulele back or not, though. I would oil it after I made that decision. You can also check for sharp fret ends. Now, here's one of the benefits of the Toto Music ukulele here, is that these are semi-hemispherical fret ends, so they're all rounded on each side, which means that they're cut to length before they're put in, they're shaped before they're put in, and then they're dropped in sequentially, and they will never touch the end of the fretboard. You will never get a sharp fret end as a result of that regardless. So this is a great advancement in ukulele world over the last, I think I've really only been seeing it the last couple of years. They might be older than that. It might have been part of the guitar world for a long time. But really, it's been rather recently that companies have started to ship frets with those fret ends rather than the cut fret ends, which are the ones that hurt you and you have to sand. Now, if you have to sand fret ends on an inexpensive ukulele, what you do again is you tape the size of your instrument, and then you can get a sanding sponge. This one came from Dollar Tree, which is a place here in the United States, just a small convenience store, and they actually even sold a holder with this. I bought a couple of them, so I just removed that one. You can use a holder or not, and stand at a 45-degree angle. Just make sure you don't hit the neck or the top of your ukulele. That should be taped, and you can sand away a sharp fret end. Yes, there's a special fret edge tool that you can buy. Costs a lot more money, and it, for a quick fix on an inexpensive ukulele, easy thing to do. On a more expensive ukulele, oh, by the way, you sand right, so you tape over those fret ends and you can sand right into the metal frets. It'll still protect the wood underneath. It's the metal frets that will be sanded through the tape. Works great. So if you have sharp fret ends, that's a solution. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is action. And I do have a digital tool to measure action, but you can buy and should buy an action ruler or a string height action ruler. And there are markings on here that tell you both in millimeters and inches depending on what you like to use. I tend to use millimeters because I think it gives me a clearer mindset what we're looking for. And what I look for is an action of 2.65 or lower, probably no lower than 2 at the lowest at the 12th fret, and about zero point 0.5, and that's almost always at the first fret. And that's from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. So the string exists above the fret and that space underneath. And what these little markings are useful for on there is you can actually see that black shape underneath the string and see where the action is. So when I look at this first fret, it appears on this ukulele to be 0.25 millimeters with that little black marking there. So it is low action at the first fret. Now I can bring up my other tool and gauge it digitally. We'll do that in a second. And at the 12th fret, I'm seeing action of 1.75. And that's really low action. So if you were a person that had weaker hands or arthritis, this instrument would be incredibly easy to play because you wouldn't have to press down very hard to make chords sound. Additionally, if the action is high, you have to pull the string further down, which is going to stretch the string, pulling it out of tune every time you do it, but also pull down the note tighter than it needs to be on that one, making it play less frequently in tune. Another thing you can check when you're buying ukulele is harmonics. Now, harmonics occur on the string at nodes where the wave naturally lines up. That happens at the 12th fret, the 7th fret, and the 5th fret. You can also make it happen above the 12th fret, but we just don't deal with that. And what you do is you stop the string lightly, you touch it, and then you pick it at the same time. I am not an expert with harmonics by any means. There are artists who are, such as Four String Boy, that does a lot of work with ukulele, Tobias Elof. You should be able to hear harmonics at the 12th, at the 7th, they're there, and at the 5th. If you hear those harmonics at the 5th, 7th, and 12th, it tells you that the fretboard is probably set up to play relatively in tune. There is no fretboard that plays perfectly in tune all the way up and down. There's just too much at stake. It's all equal temperament and then adjusted to make it work with the scale length for each string and each sort of bass note. You can also check this with a traditional tuner. So I've got my rechargeable Legato USB-C tuner. It's not super accurate, but it's accurate enough that you can see when you play a note like this G. I'll try to see if I can get it in the screen here for you. I'm still working with this screen to see if I can work it. I'm going to look at it too. Right now it's a little flat. Now it's in tune, if you can see that. Let me get out of the way there. Yep, showing in tune. Well, let's go to the 12th fret and see what it does. I'm seeing it's still playing a little sharp, which is common. Let's see if I can get over there. Now, one thing that happens with a lot of us is that when we're playing up here at the 12th fret, we press way too hard and we pull the string way out of tune. You just have to press close to the metal fret as lightly as you can to get a sound, and chances are it's going to play more in tune than you think. And actually, when I do that and I play super lightly, it's really close to being in tune. So we've done all that. We've checked the action. Oh, we're going to check it digitally too, so let me get that tool. Now, this is a tool that allows me to check the string action digitally, which is way more accurate than using the string action ruler. You don't need to buy one of these. It's basically a digital caliper, but it's been modified to be used in this setting. Now, I've been sort of called out a little bit for the way that I use this. Some people want me to press down on the strings on both sides rather than the string itself with the plunger to take the measurement. I've done both, and the difference is minuscule, like almost nothing. But also, if I'm measuring at the first fret, I can't press down on the strings on both sides. There's no room between that fret. So if I want to measure action on the first fret, this is what I have to do. And it's a little awkward for me to do this, but I put it on one or more of the strings, depending on which one I want to measure, and I zero it out. And then when I zero it out, I push down the plunger, and I've got 0.20. Now remember I said it was 0.25 on the card, so 0.20. 0.005 millimeter difference between the card and digital. So is there a big difference there? Not really. Now let me go to the 12th fret. And when I was looking at the 12th fret, I believe I said it was under, it was like 1.75. So let's see. Here you go. I'm zeroing it out. Got the plunger right above. And here it comes. That one says 2.16. Now, if I press the strings down on either side, zero it out, and let go, I've got 2.10 as a measurement. Now, let me check with the card again, because that's quite a bit of difference. Yeah, it does not look like there's any space under the 2, which is why I went to the 1.75, but I guess it is closer to 2 reading it there. But that's the sort of things that I would check and then decide whether I like the sound of the instrument overall. And we're out of tune a little bit now. So those are the things that I look at. Now, would I normally take, I've been recording on this video for 25 minutes. It won't be that long because there's some things I'm going to cut out. But would I normally take 25 minutes to inspect an ukulele before I really decided whether it was immediately worth sending back or not? The answer is typically no, unless there were problems with it that I knew that I could fix, like sharp fret ends or something. But that's a quick summary of the things you can look at with an ukulele. Now, the other thing I just wanted to mention, closed geared tuners requires zero maintenance basically. This one does have strap buttons that come along with the strap that's included with it. In this case, I don't like guitar-sized capos. Don't like that at all. I like ukulele capos. My two favorite are the G7 Nashville capo and then also the Shub Lights. Those are my two favorite because the Shub is adjustable and the G7 capo just works really well because it stays out of the way of your hand. But you're going to get often with like an Amazon instrument some freebies, and it's worth checking those out. But really, it's the instrument itself and the gig bag that are worth spending the time taking a look at. So hopefully that's helpful. Now, if you notice, I did not look on the inside of the ukulele. In my reviews, and the review will already be posted of this one, I do put an endoscope in there. The build on the inside of an ukulele doesn't mean it's good or bad, but it does show you the care with which the ukulele was built. So if I stick an endoscope in there and see what's going on, that may or may not frustrate me or bother me. Unless I hear something broken and rattling, then the endoscope is helpful. So if this instrument had a pickup and it was rattling with the pickup, usually it means that the adhesive that holds a clip with the wire to the side of the ukulele has worn down and just popped off the instrument. Then I at least have an idea of what's going on or what's not quite right in there. But otherwise, I have no reason to really look on the inside. And, the only thing that you can think about sometimes is like sometimes a company will put on a sticker crooked or something, and that will really bother people, and they'll want to send their instrument back. And again, if you're buying from Amazon, you do have that right. Sure, go ahead and do that if you're unhappy with the instrument. But otherwise, you have a quick check, looking for buzzes, sharp fret ends, things like that, intonation, and then deciding whether you want to deal with action. Now, if your action is too high, then either you have to learn how to adjust your action or take it to a luthier. If your action is too low, then I would personally send the instrument back and have them send you a different one, because you can get a taller saddle, you can get a different nut, but it's a lot of messing around that you shouldn't have to do with an ukulele from the start. Adjusting action lower, that's par for the course. If your action is too low, that's something that an instrument should never come in that condition. And it's just too much for many people just to deal with. I would send it back and just get a different one. All right, so I hope that quick look at this Toto, which please note, fares really well. No sharp fret ends, no buzzing, no flaws visible on the outside of the instrument, comes with a good case. General set up incredibly low, easy to play, no buzzing. You know, that's a real positive summary of what's going on here. May not happen with your instrument, and that's okay. But now you know what to look for when you're buying an instrument and sort of how to inspect it. All right. Thanks so much for joining for this video. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more uke stuff for you.